I need a... Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mohamed Alaali and I represent BBK today. I would love to take you into a journey, and by the end of this journey, I would like you to leave with one thing, and that is to focus on what matters. Meet Ahmed, 6 years old. He has a neuromuscular issue. Ahmed has never been able to walk straight like you do. Ahmed has had difficulty moving, and his parents, Fatma and Khaled, has been suffering with him. After a long waiting, he received his advanced mobility chair, sponsored by BBK, for 20 people who've been waiting and suffering. The question is, why should a bank, or any organization for that matter, help? I mean, the elephant in the room is the US, the world superpower, is canceling everything to do with sustainability, diversity. All of that is being thrown away. And why should we care anymore, right? I mean, if the leader of the world is moving away from these things, why should we continue to focus on it? Why should BBK focus on it? BBK spends about 2.2 million dinars, that's a significant amount, in supporting the community. So it's not just about PR, it's a real money going into real things. Why should we continue to do that, right? And where should we spend it? The problem is, if you go into the sustainability reporting standards, you'll find hundreds and hundreds of pages of disclosures. I remember in one of the conferences, I asked an expert in sustainability, I was like, if you were to tackle the sustainability issue, would you do it the same way you're doing it right now? And his answer was a resounding no. And I was like, how come? Because what we're trying to do is get everyone to report on the same thing. And if you look at the KPIs being reported, it's hundreds of KPIs. And in sustainability departments, you'll have 2 or 3 people. How much can they work? And how much effort can you deploy? So we really need to go back to the essence of the problem and decide, what will I focus on that I can create real impact? Let's take the environment, for example. The Earth temperature has risen by 1.1 Celsius over the last decade. Water levels have increased. Seawater levels have increased by 8 to 9 inches. As an island, this is a real threat. We've seen it ourselves, right? Rain in the summer in Bahrain. Since when, right? Flooding in Dubai. So these are real things impacting us. And these things are creating risks. Creating risk for you, creating risk for organizations like banks. Because if your house drowns, guess who's going to suffer? My mortgage is not going to be paid back easily, right? If you lose your job due to that, that's a risk. And consumers like you and the young generations care. Actually, in the latest research, 73% of consumers want to deal with sustainable businesses. So as a bank, I do want to take a stake in that. Bahrain today has committed to go to net zero by 2060. What does that mean, right? So in real life, if you go to the plan, that means by 2060, we need to produce 4,000 megawatts of sustainable energy, of renewable energy. How much is it today? It's about 57 megawatts, right? So 10 times. By 2030, we need to increase our renewable energy to 5%. By 2035, we need to increase our renewable energy by 20% to 20%. So that requires a lot of investment and work. So if we focus on that, forget everything else, right? Focus on that. How much carbon emissions do you do personally? Do you know? How much an organization does? And the way you calculate it, it's called Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3, right? Scope 1 are things you produce yourself. So if you go to Zain or BBK, you'll basically count how much our cars drive and how much emissions they do. And in an embedding, it's not much, right? And this is where most organizations focus. It's on the small things. It's how much, خلينا نغير, let's change the bottles, plastic. All that is great. I'm not discounting that. But that's 0.5% of your emissions. If you go to scope 2 in a bank, it's the electricity you spend. At max, 1.2% of the emissions. But if you go to scope 3, it's like for a bank, it's how much money we're spending, suppliers we're paying, and how much emissions they're doing. So if I go and finance 2 million dinars in a non-renewable energy and a fossil fuel, that I'm adding to the scope 3, right? So my scope 3 as a bank is more than 98% of my emissions. So the question, am I measuring it? Am I driving it, right? The world economy is expecting $1 trillion of financing by 2035 in renewable energy. That's the opportunity, and that's where I need to focus as a bank. And each of you need to focus on what matters to you. And for me, that means I need to put my sustainable finance framework. I need to train my team to think about renewable energy. It means that I need to focus on projects, innovations, work with the government, find ways where I can help the government achieve their objective and achieve my objective. And it doesn't end with the organizations. Every one of you has an obligation. I bought a new car, and I was hesitant. I really wanted to get an EV car, and I couldn't for a very technical reason. It's going to be a long story, so I don't want to bore you. But my new car sent me a report of my January journeys, and I was very surprised to see that my CO emissions for January, I produced 450 kgs of CO2. And I really regretted not buying the EV car. And I hope you guys, when you make your decisions, you don't regret the same. Thank you so much. Mohamed Alaali with you.